60s
Well, the
and in
60s are a long
that
time
was the
away.
sexual revolution.
But, you know, all women think every other woman is giving it away for free. Every woman thinks every other woman is.
You know something? Those girls in the 60s are today's mothers telling their daughters not to give it away for free.
Well, that's because they raise their kids by themselves.
Yeah, well, I think what has happened is, well, you're right about that, but I don't think that's because of a permissive sexual attitude. I think it's because the institution of marriage in many people's minds it's changed. It's not as sacrosanct as it used to be, and people don't stay together as long as they used to.
But that's the general permissiveness of the whole culture, and one of the permissive things that we do is,
well, what's the cure?
Or did, is to have sex.
What's the cure? Shall we reduce choice?
One of the cures, one of the cures is to tell women, do not give it away. Make him earn you. Make him invest in you.
The interesting thing is that men didn't tell women to give it away. Somehow the women said,
I'm not saying
hey,
it's the men.
I want to give it to you because I want to be equal to you. See, when I was a kid, I had a different perception. My memory of how men got women is you grabbed them by the hair, the cavemen, and they dragged them in, and that was your woman. And I said, I could never do that. My perception was wrong, too, because I was very shy. I said, if I have to do that, I'll never get a woman. No, I'm saying the woman did it to herself, actually.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And they did it together.
Yes.
And women now have to take it back and say, we're not going to do this anymore.
I think they've been taking it back, though, in the age of AIDS, don't you think?
Yeah,
yes, in large part.
I think AIDS is, maybe I'm not, it's a sweeping statement, but I think the promiscuity that came from the 60s definitely made something like AIDS much more...
And I have to tell you, my son, who's 16 years old, is much more conservative than my peers who are in their 40s. Much more conservative. He and his friends, they hang out in gangs. He is still a virgin.
He's in a gang? Yeah. He's in a conservative gang.
Doing
drive-by. Your son, Alan Greenspan, George Well. It's a great gang. We have to take a break. I'm sorry. I'll come back to this. We'll be right back. Okay, we got onto the sexual revolution there, and you said the old thing about, you know, giving away the milk and the cow. But, you know, if you posit that that is the big weapon that a woman has, is sex, isn't that...
No, that is not the only weapon a woman has. A woman has many weapons.
That's sort of what you're saying.
No,
you're
I'm
saying
that...
once you fire that shot, you're out of ammo.
In part,
unless
yes.
You're very, very good at
it.
So then practice would be a good idea. So then starting earlier would be a good idea. But I'm not saying that that'd be a good idea. But what if people maybe if we drop the age of consent then and close our eyes, maybe we made the year shorter, then people would get older earlier, and then that would have that whole thing going.
Well, you know, if people are reaching puberty at such an earlier age, should we drop the age of consent?
I bet Roman Polanski would appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly.
He'd be able to come back in the country again. Huh?
I think if kids knew that they're going to be doing this for the rest of their lives and find out, we did a picture where people at 50 are very sexual. They get very passionate.
Thank you.
If we let kids know that you don't have to get it all in that first year.
That's right.
You want to get it for the rest of your life until you die. And it's good.
I think that they should stay innocent longer.
The audience is very excited by that, Carl.
I think we should return to innocence. I think that we should,
tough.
Extend the innocence longer.
That is a tough thing to do, to ever return to innocence. Do you know the age of consent?
It is. Once it's gone, it's gone.
In Japan, is 12.
But she's right about kids.
In Japan, is 12.
What does that mean?
You know, you got to remember, though, something. Teenagers are a fairly recent invention in the history of humankind. They were created, they were created by the Industrial Revolution. In agrarian societies, once you got to puberty, 12, 13, you got behind the plow, you got married, Romeo and Juliet, et cetera, et cetera. It wasn't until the Industrial Revolution that suddenly we got this buffer period between childhood and adulthood.
When you say you got behind the plow?
Yeah, because they're agrarian societies. Farmers.
Oh.
Farmers, Bill, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that.
I thought it was a gay thing.
We're late night now, aren't we? That's okay.
Yes, so that doesn't mean there weren't teenagers.
Well, no, they were not teenagers. They were adults. They were viewed as adults. There was no long adolescence buffer period between childhood and adulthood. This is a rather modern development, but still, just because you're physically developed doesn't mean you're mentally developed. Doesn't mean you're socially developed. I think Judith's got a very good point there.
But nature made people able to have children at a certain. As soon as you start menstruating, you're a potential mother, and that's the way nature made it.
Why do you point at me?
Oh, I don't
I guess nature also designed us to run around and sow the wild oats as much as we can, and that's also really not.
That's what nature did to you.
Yeah, yeah, but
there are big gender differences.
No, I said us.
And you're saying
I didn't say us like this.
And you know,
I said us over here.
Well, okay.
And you're
I'm still a man.
And you're saying
And
the
there
only
are
way
big
to make it, you use the phrase make us behave. Now, we
Yes.
could be a little upset about that.
Why?
The idea that we are animals that have, why don't you get an electronic leash?
It's probably a good idea for some of you.
That would be probably a good idea.
Now, there are men, you know, whose natural inclination is to want to go from tree to tree to tree like dogs do. Okay?
We're not talking about
It happens. It happens.
Are we talking about urination or sex?
Yeah,
Women do not have that same natural inclination. Women
Right.
want to nurture and
But-
raise
but if
children
you
in a
base-
protected environment.
But if you base your power on sex, isn't that at some point going to wane? Shouldn't your power over men not be based on sex?
No, because that's
ultimately
what
don't we-
men care about.
Bill,
in
what
large
she's saying
part.
in her delicate way is that men think with their you-know-what.
They do,
That's what she's saying.
especially
Yes.
during that period
Since
of
you're
time.
not on cable anymore, I won't be any more specific than that. I think you know what I'm talking
But-
about.
But since that is always going to wane a little bit, shouldn't the relationship be based on something else
Yes,
that makes
of
us
course
want
it
to stay?
should. It should be based on intimacy and love and caring and building a family together and sharing experiences and being responsible and not leaving your children. My son, who's 16 years old, and all of his friends, most of them come from divorced families. Most of them were raised by
you
their
divorced?
mothers. Yes, or trying to be.
Well, get it. It's
in
worth
progress.
No, my son was raised by me. I did not marry his father. And I raised him as a single mother from the time he was a little boy.
And here you are
And here I
criticizing
am.
society.
Well, look, I made some
Okay.
mistakes.
I have to take a break. We'll be right back. All right, tomorrow we're going to have Elizabeth Perkins, Lionel Chetwynd, Paxton Quigley, and Richard Reeves. Now, you mentioned that society has changed, and so our sexual mores have, like with the teenagers. What about the fact that when they first said, "till death do you part," death was like 40, so when you got married, you didn't have to live your whole life.
Yeah.
You say that in a tone that suggests that you think if you have to live your whole life with someone, it's a terrible thing. It shouldn't be a terrible thing. And it's not just living your life with your spouse. It's living your life with your children, with your grandchildren.
You're the one who
friends,
wrote divorce.
I want to go on
community.
record. I said till death do us part, and I'm married 53 years.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And I'm very frightened of death coming because we're starting to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just figured it out.
Yeah,
now.
just started having
I
fun.
hope it doesn't take that
But don't
long.
you think that's been one of the most important things in your life?
Absolutely.
That's given to you in every way in your career and
My kids,
having your family
my wife
together?
and kids are really the single most important thing in my life. If I have a hit picture, that's fun. The other thing is important. That's where you live. That's where you live.